All right. So thank you for doing this interview with me. Um, to start off, what is your name and how long have you been teaching?
So my name's Melisa. Do you need my last name at all? Well,
No,
it says on there. So
no.
Melisa. And I want to say I've been teaching for about 6 years, give or take.
Nice. And what grades have you taught?
So I've done most of my teaching was done at a private preschool, and that included anywhere from pre-toddlers to pre-K. I've done work in public schools with TK or transitional kindergarten. I've also done work with fifth graders, seventh and eighth graders.
So quite a big range.
Yeah,
All right. And do you belong to a teachers union?
I do not know. And the times that I was teaching, I was never part of a union either.
Did you look into any unions while you were teaching just to see what they offered?
So with the private preschool, it wasn't unionized, and no, I didn't. Um, no real answer why I didn't. And then when I was teaching in public school, I wasn't like a full-time teacher. It was more of like I would teach class here and there, so I wasn't part of the union.
Hmm. That makes sense. And why did you want to become an educator?
Um, so I always tell when I'm asked this question, when you're a kid and you play pretend, um, you have kids pretend to be princesses or firefighters. I always pretended to be a teacher. I would force my little sister to be a student, and I would be the teacher. And I want to say that a, a lot of the best memories I've had growing up, and I think a lot of like the really important life lessons I've learned all came from really good teachers. And so I think that was sort of like the driving force for me to become an educator.
Hmm. It's similar to how I feel with my family history always being in education, and I probably should have picked that at Fullerton, but what are you going to do? So my next question is, do you have any family members who are involved in education?
So with your situation, I'm completely opposite. I have no one in my family who is an educator or in like a career that's focused on education. It's I don't want to stereotype, but at least within my own family, being an educator um, meant that you weren't making money. It was more of like you needed to choose to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. So yeah, a lot of people in my family didn't think that being a teacher was a good career path. So I'm opposite.
Yeah. Well, at least you found it. All right. Now we're going to go deep, deep questions. Now, let me see. What do you think needs to be done to increase educator salaries?
Oh, this one's a hard one. I I don't think um, teachers or people who work in the educational system, we all know that they're not fairly compensated, and I think a lot of it is the lack of resources and a lack of I guess taxpayer dollars going to the education system. I think a lot of the money that can be allocated to schools and teachers and all that are directed elsewhere, like military or maybe like defense and security. So that I think I guess so a way for us for blah, 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 blah. Sorry. What I think needs to be done is that I think there needs to be more. There needs to be. How do I word this? What am I trying to say? That more money needs to be allocated to the educational system rather than other, I guess, other departments that
Hmm.
that it's going to.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah. I don't think teachers don't get enough funding, schools don't get enough funding, and I think a lot, especially the public schools, rely heavily on taxpayer dollars, and I think if we were to even shift a small amount of the funding that's given to other departments to the school systems, even that would be a huge, improvement, I guess.
Hmm. That's why when I chose this topic, it's one that's good to advocate for, but it's also thinking about what has been done already, what we can do now, and then how to prepare for the future. And then I think that's the tough part, is just how do we allocate that money away? How does the government see education as something good?
Yes, exactly.
All right. So the next one, being a millennial, we both agree this is a big thing. What do you think needs, or no, already read that. What are your feelings about rising costs of living compared to educator salaries?
Um, I think talking with firsthand experience, it's hard. It's very difficult to live off of what I think teachers make, and because of that, I think a lot of people are discouraged from becoming teachers. Like in my case, as a preschool teacher, I was making maybe a little bit above minimum wage, and it's hard work. Teaching, it's difficult. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, and it's really discouraging to know that you can do another job, and not saying that the other jobs are like less work or they're not as important, but you can get a job somewhere else, make so much more money, and be, you're not as stressed.
Hmm.
um and i I honestly think that the cost of living, I mean, you have teachers that have second jobs, right? In
Hmm.
order to just make it. They live paycheck to paycheck. Some might be teaching in like lower income schools, so they have to provide supplies from their own income, and then in order to like supplement that loss, they have to get second jobs. And I can't imagine teachers who are single parents, or have to take care of someone else on the salary that they are making. So I I just yeah. it's it's discouraging, it's kind of scary, it's sad. I think teachers should be paid so much more than what they're getting, especially the ones that teach at in lower income schools, because they're already at a disadvantage in my opinion. And yeah.
All right, so that will go into my next question, is how can future educators feel excited about teaching? What can we do to make, like for me, where I'm going to be going into elementary education, how do I get excited knowing I will have to pay for my students' supplies here and there and won't be paid nearly as enough as I'm making now at North Face?
hmm well, I think there's two parts to that. There are teachers out there who make incredible money, right? But I believe they come from schools that are well funded. They test really, really well, so their stats look amazing on paper. They're probably in more affluent areas. So I don't want to generalize and say all teachers don't make, you know, enough, because I know some teachers who make pretty good money, and yeah, that comes with tenure and stuff like that. But I want to say that a lot of the educators who have, or who basically who need better income, are the ones that work in lower income schools. Um, but to go back on how do you make future, what was the question? Future.
Future educators feel excited about teaching.
I think you have to remember why you're becoming an educator. I think every single person who pursues some sort of degree in education knows that you're not coming out of it making hundreds and thousands of dollars. I think that's sort of a given. Um, I knew it going in.
Hmm.
All of the other people in my group knew that. We knew that we weren't gonna make $200,000 a year. But I think there's more to becoming a teacher than the money. It's You have to find the reason why you want to be a teacher. And I think that speaks more than the money. I'm not saying that money isn't a thing, it's important.
Hmm.
But I think people who, in order to keep that excitement and that passion, you have to really remember and keep it in your heart and your mind, like, why am I doing this?
Hmm.
I think that's a way for people to get excited, to remain excited, to remain passionate about their career. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Like like with Chelsea and I discussing me, taking this path, kind of, so late in my career to do a change. It's like, well, it's what I want to do. Like
Mhm.
I have a passion for it, and like I'm looking forward to just spending the time with students and seeing them grow, and just continuing that passion. So I think that's definitely true that we have to remember why we understand, like we don't get the best stuff being
Exactly.
educators, but we do see and help our students succeed.
Yes. Just, yeah, it's the little things, honestly, that made teaching really important. You can be that one person in a kid's life that just affects them forever. I had amazing teachers that I still remember to this day, and it's just like, I want to be that for a kid, and
Hmm.
I think that just means more.
Definitely. Well, my last question is, I know at Chaparral High School we saw this a lot, but do you believe that strikes and walkouts are necessary, even the best means for pushing this issue forward?
So personally, I've never been in a strike. Like you said, I've witnessed them, and when you're younger, you kind of don't understand. I think if you were a parent and you had to take days off for your kid to stay at home because the teachers are on strike, is sort of an inconvenience. But I think people need to look at the bigger pictures, like, why are teachers, why are they on strike, or why are they walking out? It's because they're not getting the help they need. And this is, in my opinion, one kind of like a last resort, right? You have like a union rep to sort of voice out your opinions. There are different things that teachers can do, and I feel like a lot of their needs are ignored. And so what way to get your voice out there than to show, like, I'm walking out, and it affects everyone, and so you need to sort of appreciate what I'm doing as a teacher. um I guess is where I'm going at. Like, I honestly think they're necessary. I think it has a really big impact. It really, what am I trying to say? I think it really puts their needs out there. Um, and I also think it brings awareness, right? I think a
Hmm.
lot of people might not know, like parents or the community, or even like local government, and might not know what's going on behind the scenes. And so I think it's a fantastic way to really get your voice out there and for people to understand what's going on. I guess, if that makes any sense.
That makes
I'm
so.
for them.
Yeah. Well, that's what because I had to think of, because when I think of walkout, it's like, yeah, you're kind of hurting the students because you're not there in the classroom. They're not going to get an education. But how else are we supposed to, you know, push this issue forward? We can't just keep telling the government or our state governments to do their job and look at this. But like, especially here in Colorado, I know both the Republicans and Democrats in the state kind of knock down each other's bills for no reason. Because I know there was one. last year that was supposed to give teachers a $2,000 bonus and a 3% salary increase, but that was knocked down because it was going to increase taxes or something. So it's like that's a walkout right there.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm not a parent, but so say hypothetically, it was inconvenient for me to take the day off or take several days off or find a babysitter or pay for extra help if there was a walkout. But I mean, imagine if just all the teachers just quit one day because they're being treated unfairly or their needs aren't met, or if they're not even being heard.
Mhm.
What's worse, right? So no one wins in the situation, but I think that the bigger picture is more important. Like, there is a reason why they're doing this, and so we need to understand, and the community and parents and just everyone needs to understand, like, okay, what caused this? Oh, okay, I understand. But yeah.
I get it. Well, that's all I had. You made me learn a bunch of things. I feel better about this topic, and it's nice to, hear from a fellow educator. And yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time.
No
This was
problem.
great.
I hope I answered the questions.
Well, if I
I've
ever
never done this before, so I'm just like,
we're probably going to have to do this more. So,
it's fine.
and
I'm
I'd
not
like to.
doing anything.
Yeah, thank you so much, Melissa.
No problem.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now.